there are people who wonder if the dealers are gouging everyone and just charging high premiums. And any comments on that? And also, if someone has metal that they actually do want to sell, are you paying above spot for those?
So I'll answer the second question first. Yes, I'll pay markedly above spot, much, much higher than we've ever paid. So premiums go both ways.
Hello there, my friends. Chris Marcus here with you for Arcadia Economics, and a man who is quickly becoming one of our most popular guests, Andy. I got to tell you, in the entire time I've been doing this show, there are a few people that the audience has been more excited to hear from. Obviously, you have a unique perspective to what's going on in the physical gold and silver markets. Andy is the founder of precious metals dealer Miles Franklin. So especially with physical bullion in short supply, still out there to some degree, I'll stop talking and welcome Andy on in. Andy, how are you, sir?
Thanks, buddy. Good to see you, Chris. I'm hanging in there, man. How about yourself?
I'm doing all right today, and we'll just hop right into it because I know people have been waiting for you again this week.
Glad to be here.
What has the physical market? What are people buying? Is anybody selling? Is it still just a lot of buy orders, or how's that looking?
Yeah, we've done more business in the past since mid-February than we have in years before. We did more business in March than we did in the last 6 months prior to that. The demand is off the charts, Chris. It's unlike anything I've ever seen. Nobody is selling, not a soul. And it's the price is completely reliant upon what's happening on COMEX. That's starting to break down, but I can tell you from a perspective of price falling as it did, there's nobody selling. We're doing upwards ends of 300 to 500 orders a day, which is 10 to 20 times more than we normally do, and none of them are sell orders. We've done maybe 1 or 2 sell orders in the past 6 weeks. Literally, tiny fraction of what we're doing.
Yep. And that certainly makes sense. I know a lot of people are wondering about the premiums. What does it cost? You can pick a particular product that is selling a lot, or however you choose to phrase it, but what does it actually cost right now to get an ounce of gold and to get an ounce of silver?
Well, to get an ounce of gold eagle, you'll probably pay 9 or 10% over the price of gold, and that would be as cheap or cheaper than any online company in America. You can buy there are items that you can buy if you're willing to wait that have a little better value, like silver buffalo rounds are more affordable, but they're 5-6 weeks out. For the things that are available now, let's say like kangaroos or eagles, or have a better availability anyway. Kangaroo is as much as $7 over, $8 over. We'll be lower than that. But if you look online, almost everyone is at least that. I think last I checked, we were under 6 over on those. The American Eagle, I believe we're between $8 and $9 over, somewhere in that neighborhood. Everyone is 10 plus or higher. The premiums are unlike anything I've ever seen right now, Chris. And I guess the only way that I can answer, is it beneficial for people to buy at these levels, is to ask yourself a question, because I can't answer it. Is this a V-shaped recovery, a liquidity-based recovery that we saw in 2008, where easy money and Fed intervention pushed things back to normal and then some? Or is this something that is a new reality, where supply chains are only going to get worse from here, where the United States Mint is located in West Point, New York, where the Canadian Mint has been shut down for 2 weeks, is supposed to open back up tomorrow, we hope, where receiving product from across the Atlantic Ocean becomes more and more challenging, where most of the mints are located, Austria, Australia. Look, Chris, with the fragility of the market is very evident when we look at the Canadian Mint being shut down for the last 2 weeks, when we look at the Perth Mint running out of gold bars, when we look at the US Mint that on Monday shut down because the security guard caught the virus. 45 minutes later, they said they'd open back up yesterday, Wednesday, because the guard never had access to the production floor. So it was just a 48-hour deep clean. But again, this just signifies just how fragile everything is. You have the U.S. Mint that is located in West Point, New York, that has already shown that all it takes is one person to get sick and it's done. You got the Canadian Mint, who's been down for 2 weeks, who hopefully opens up tomorrow. And the rest of the mints located across the globe that are all heavily dependent on a supply chain. And we haven't even begun to talk about how that affects the supply chain here in the States. All the online companies, Chris, the reason we've been able to get product when other people can't, I've been hearing people asking that, is that we know everyone in the industry, not just the big players, not just the big 4 primary distributors. And when they run out of product, as they've really been doing, that's it. And that's why most of the online companies, that's why they're out of product. We have a network that's 30 years deep of mid-tier and small-tier suppliers, along with coin shops across the globe, whom we're their first call when they have product that comes in the door. So we have been able to keep product in. But when we talk about the way things are moving, even stuff that's in stock with the primary distributors is weeks back ordered because they are social distancing. Normally, these folks have 50 people packaging boxes all day long. Now they may have 5 at 50 times demand. And so everyone's overwhelmed. The whole supply chain is gummed up or broken. And my only hope is that this isn't the beginning of a substantive, long-lasting reality based upon the unknown. Now, if all of a sudden there's a cure and everyone goes back to work and everything turns around, well, great. Then paying these high premiums will be foolish. If that's not the case, then it'll only get worse from here, Chris. And the bottom line is, you see 1% of the public, or let me rephrase that. You see the public pull 1% of their money out of equities into precious metals, and overnight there'll be nothing left for the rest of us. It's that fragile of a supply chain right now.
Yeah, that makes sense. And Andy, comment we've gotten a bit. I know a lot of people are wondering this, so I'd love to give you a chance to address it. There are people who wonder if the dealers are gouging everyone and just charging high premiums. And any comments on that? And also, if someone has metal that they actually do want to sell, are you paying above spot for those?
So I'll answer the second question first. Yes, I'll pay markedly above spot, much, much higher than we've ever paid. So premiums go both ways on the up and on the down. Some of the dealers most definitely are gouging people. They are, no question about it. That's why I've been making public comment that I will be the least expensive company in America, and have been for your listeners, for Big Swear's listeners, for Dunnington Kaiser's listeners. I have been. We're a volume-based business, one that certainly is all about doing numbers of transactions, not making a big amount on each sale. But I will say this: there are some companies out there unequivocally are gouging people. Gouging, however, Chris, I guess is a subjective word. The primary distributors and all the people who have it, what's it worth for them to let it go? They're not letting it go for what the COMEX price is saying that the reality is. And so I have to pay a whole lot more than I ever have from everyone to get the product. And so I'm selling it for more, which is still less than everyone in America. So I guess gouging is a subjective word when you're looking at a spot price that is void from reality. And I think that the manipulation on the COMEX market is showing us a price that is not real. And the market is calling the bluff of the COMEX market. So, or at least the real life market is calling the bluff. So I don't know really how to answer that, simply to say some people are, but then again, is it fair or not? If stuff just is not going to be available for a long period of time, what's it worth? I'm willing to pay a whole lot more than I ever have for it, to pay or to offer to my clients. I just received a distribution from my company. I put all my money into gold and silver, all of it, at the highest premiums I've ever paid in my life. So it's the same thing for me, whether it be personally or for my business. And I quite frankly can't tell you if I think it's justifiable or not. If things don't change, then hell yeah, it's justifiable. If things go back to normal like they did in '08, yeah, we may regret paying 3 or 4 or 5 or 6% premium more than we normally did. But I have a feeling that this is actually going to last longer than people want to give it credit for.
Yeah, I mean, it's certainly an interesting situation. Perhaps we won't dig into it too much today, but with I've heard as much as 50% of the world's silver supply going offline. Just yesterday, Mexico was saying any non-essential industries are getting shut down, which includes mining. Um,
All
in
the
India,
refineries are closed in Switzerland. The mines are closing across the globe. This is how it starts. It starts at the mines which are shutting, down to the refineries which are shutting, and the mints are shutting. And then the primary distributors are working on skeleton crew. So you tell me, what's it worth for you to sell your silver and gold? Go back into dollars. Are you willing to get spot for it, or do you realize that that's a bullshit price? And so um, I don't know how to answer this, Chris. And you're right, and that is what is happening, and it's only going to get worse before it gets better, I think. The question is, when? When does it get better? Let's hope that it does get better. I got 3 kids. I want to believe that the world gets better and everything goes back to normal. But quite frankly, I have no idea. I don't know when this gets better, and I'm only rolling with the punch as best I can. So we're not gouging anyone. We're cheaper than everybody, but premiums suck right now, and they've never been this high in my career. So it's one of these deals where you have to just think it through yourself.
yeah, Andy, I appreciate that because on one hand, people have wondered when the physical market will divorce from the paper market. You could say that started happening now. And again, I think it's understandable. People would wonder if the dealers are gouging because there's a lot of people who are new to precious metals, don't understand how this works. I appreciate, and for everyone who's listening, I've known Andy for I think we're in year 4 now of going steady. Um, and I know your reputation of doing honest business and would point out just that a lot of the premiums is market driven. So I appreciate that you're also buying metal above spot. And again, for folks, obviously I'm a big silver bull. Andy likes gold and silver too. But just to be clear, when I bring you on here each week, Andy, is not just to talk your book. You and I have had extensive conversation and multiple hours put into plans to actually buy metal from people. I might add, if there's any We Buy Gold shops or anyone who's accumulating metal, I know that you're happy to take that in as well. So I appreciate that your goal in your business is to provide whatever services people in the gold and silver market need. So thanks for pointing that out. I think that's something relevant to people, worthwhile. And perhaps just in wrapping up today, Andy, if people do want to buy or sell gold or silver, or if there's any platinum or palladium left floating around, what is the best way to reach you?
By email at Andy@MilesFranklin, put Arcadia in the subject line. We will beat any price in the country that you find on a major retailer. Show us their price, we'll beat it. And have a little bit of patience. I am getting 500 emails a day, and I am doing the very darndest I can to either reply to them myself or quickly forward them off to one of my best brokers. All of our brokers are solid. Most have been with me for 15, 20 years or longer. We'll be able to answer your questions not only on precious metals, give you fair pricing, but talk to you about what's happening in the world. So please mention Arcadia Economics in the subject line. Be as specific as you can as what you're looking for. Someone will get back to you within a day, no matter what. And whether it be me personally, which I strive to do, or one of my brokers if I'm just too swamped. But it's important to me, Chris, to help your listeners out as much as I possibly can for as long as I can. And we'll keep doing this for as long as we can. I'd like to keep coming back on your show and giving you perspectives for as long as I can as well. I really appreciate what you're doing. I'm thrilled to see that your word is getting out there. I see it all over the place, and I'm very, very happy for you. And you're doing an amazing job. I hope you continue doing what you're doing, because we need people like you spreading the word about what's really happening without any BS added to it.
Well, I sure appreciate that, Andy. Doing the best I can, at least. That was why I left Wall Street, because I thought people needed to understand what was happening. So I appreciate that. I appreciate you coming on the show, giving us some insight into the market. Again, folks, if you'd like to reach Andy, Andy@MilesFranklin, put Arcadia in the subject heading. And Andy, we were also giving away an audio copy of the Big Silver Short. I believe it was anyone over $1,000 order. So if you want to know why all these things that are happening now are occurring, Fortunately, I was part of a book that includes Andy as well, called The Big Silver Short, that breaks these things down. And
Would
we
like
love
to
to,
comment on that for 1 second. There
yeah.
is an interview in there with Bart Chilton that is the most fascinating interview, period, that I've seen in the last 15 years. In fact, maybe the most informative, important piece of information this industry's ever received. And I don't say that lightly. This is what I've talked about for the past 15 years plus, and you were the one and only person to get him to talk about it. So kudos to you. And if for nothing else, anyone who owns gold and silver should buy that audiobook or make a purchase with us, and I'll give you the audiobook for that information alone. I've never heard anything like it in my career, and I find it to be the most relevant, important thing that that anyone who owns precious metals should know, should listen to. And I'm surprised more people aren't talking about it, quite frankly.
Well, fortunately, things have been going well so far. I believe it's being passed around Sprott right now, which is nice. And in either case, I thank you for being a part of it. Thank you for the insight into the metals market. We'll wrap up for today. Although, folks, if you'd like to know more about the book Andy was just talking about, well, here you go.